What does it mean to wield the shield? Hey guys, my name's Corey, and this is The Overlook, where we go over the books you may have overlooked. Falcon and the Winter Soldier's first episode premiered last Friday, and with it, we meet a complicated character. I thought it might be best to go over his 4-issue miniseries from the 90s. This story is as new to me as it is to all of you, so let me know what you guys think in the comments below. When the government forced Captain America to resign, there was only one man they deemed fit to replace him. His name was John Walker, and he brought his own brand of patriotism to the job. With Cap's return, the strength-augmented super patriot assumed a new guise, becoming the U.S. government's foremost costumed operative, U.S.Agent. And this is his road to redemption. Somewhere in Los Angeles, City of Angels, an angel of death is on the prowl. And if you happen to be a convicted felon, the serial killer, known as the Scourge of the Underworld, has some unfinished business with you. The killer dresses in a white trench coat and a white fedora. He wears white pants, shoes, and gloves too, a white shirt, and a white mask. The world needs order, you see. Everything must fall in line and fit into place. That's why he keeps his gun. The Scourge makes his way up the stairs of a shady, broken down apartment complex. The hallways are littered with broken glass. It's hard to tell if the glass is from the windows or beer bottles that were carelessly tossed aside. He stops on the second floor and makes his way to the residence of a Mr. Elonganto. He lets himself in. Immediately, he finds the interior of the apartment to be no better than what lies outside the front door. Scattered trash piles, dirty laundry, and 2 children playing within the muck. The Scourge walks into the bedroom and finds 2 more children on the bed and a man looking out the window holding yet another baby in his arms. Manuel Elonganto, the Scourge says as he lifts his weapon to the man. Manuel turns on his heels and finds a barrel of a gun less than a foot away from his face. He tells the Scourge that if he pulls the trigger, then there will be no one to take care of the children. They're his sisters, and he's the only one who can look after them when she's at work. The gun doesn't move. You were once the costumed criminal known as the Masked Matador. Miguel admits that he was a criminal years ago, but since then he's paid his debt to society. Once a criminal, always a criminal, Mr. Elonganto. Your kind are all alike. It is only a matter of time before you revert to type. Miguel states once again that he has changed. He swears on his mother's grave that he will never dishonor his family again like he did in his youth. Do you know who I am, Mr. Elonganto? I am the Scourge of the Underworld. If you know any prayers, Mr. Elonganto, say them. Miguel stares past the barrel of the gun directly into Scourge's eyes and says he will not beg for his life. It's not worth that much anymore, except perhaps as a babysitter. All he asks is that the children be sent out the room. This is not something they should see. The gun trembles. The Scourge wavers. For some reason, he cannot find it in himself to complete his mission. Quickly, the Scourge, now ashamed of himself, turns and runs out the room. He sprints down the staircase to the first floor, past Miguel's sister, and out the front door of the building to his getaway van. The smell of burnt rubber thickens the air. The Scourge's mind is swarming, fighting against his better instincts. The sound of a voice covered in static cracks out the radio in the dashboard. Domino to Scourge. Mission status. The Scourge looks at the origin of the sound, abashedly. He doesn't answer Domino. Instead, he just points the gun and shoots. Somewhere, over the Pacific Coast Highway, outside Los Angeles, U.S.Agent, member of the West Coast Avengers, receives a call from Clint Barton, Hawkeye, to remind him not to forget the end of the summer bash they're having at the compound tonight. U.S.Agent tells Hawkeye he's busy. He isn't. But Avengers aren't supposed to spend their free time partying. They should be helping people. Like an elderly man who is pulled over on the side of the road with a car that has a flat tire. Upon closer inspection, John finds that the old man shares a striking resemblance to his father. John parks his hoverbike and introduces himself to the man. The man is in desperate need of a jack, and while John doesn't keep one on his sky cycle, he does have the strength needed to lift the car if the old man promises to switch out his tire in a hurry. Later, after the tire is replaced, the old man digs in his pocket and pulls out a folded piece of paper. John looks down at it and sees that it's a church program. Even though their interaction is brief, the man can tell that something is troubling John. The old man then introduces himself as Ned Nordstrom, a minister from a church down the way, and offers an open invitation to John to stop by if he ever needs a friend to talk to. U.S.Agent makes his way back to the Avengers compound in Palo Verde. All the while, the old man's words echo in John's ears. What makes him think something's troubling me? He doesn't know me. He's just a stranger. John casts the thoughts aside, stating that the minister probably just wanted John to join his dwindling flock. John parks his sky cycle and is greeted by the sound of mariachi music. What's all that racket? He wonders. Inside the compound, the West Coast Avengers are having a fiesta. He tries to sneak by, but Simon Williams, Wonder Man, stops him and invites John to join the festivities. No thanks, Williams. Some of us have work to do. John makes his way to his bedroom. When he gets there, he puts his shield down and stares out the window. He thinks to himself, I've been with these California clowns for months now, and I fit in no better now than I did the first day I joined. Wish I wouldn't always have to be the only one setting a good example around. What the? John finds a life-size party doll on his bed. Immediately, he casts it aside. Obviously, one of Barton's jokes, he thinks. And John wonders why he doesn't socialize more with the others after hours. This is why. They're just a bunch of goofballs, misfits, and slackers. It's amazing that they manage to do what little good they do. Every day, John is tempted to pack up and leave, but the U.S.Agent mantle would go to the dogs without him. The Avengers need him to keep them towing the line. How did it all come to this? He thinks. He once had such dreams. Dreams of power. That's what led him to signing up for the power broker's grueling strength augmentation treatment. Dreams of glory prompted him to take on the guise of the Super Patriot and challenge Captain America to see who best represented this proud land of ours. Dreams of honor caused him to accept the government agent Val Cooper's offer to replace Captain America as the country's costumed operative. But then, all his dreams started to go sour. As the new Captain America, he was forced to fight former buddies of his, calling themselves right and left winger. Thanks to those two, the militant watchdogs kidnapped his mother and father and shot them during his rescue attempt. John's dreams died when his folks did. When the government decided to fake John's death so he could go undercover, it didn't matter to him one way or another. He laid low, trained like crazy, and let them fashion a new civilian and public identity for him. The government had too much invested in him already to just let him slide, apparently. Finally, as Jack Daniels, the U.S. agent, John was assigned to join the West Coast Avengers to keep an eye on them. So, here he is. It's not like the West Coast Avengers are corrupt, or dangerous or anything. They just don't take their jobs seriously enough. John may have lost his dreams some time ago, but he will never let himself get soft. The work they do is what gives both structure and meaning to their lives. As long as John devotes himself to the structure, maybe he'll someday find the meaning in what he does again. John tries to get some rest, but he can't due to the salsa music blaring throughout the compound. So, he goes to see Sand Rose, head of telecommunications. At the moment, there aren't any calls, but John is so stir-crazy that he waits for over an hour for something to distract him. A call finally comes in, and it's a woman saying that she is at a bar on Melrose, and the killer, Scourge, is after her. John rips the phone away from Sand Rose and tells the woman, "This is U.S.Agent, ma'am. I'll help you. Listen to me. Stay in a public place. Don't go any place where you'll be alone, not even the bathroom. I'll come get you. You'll know it's me because I'll say, 'Sheboygan makes good sausages.'" U.S.Agent is familiar with the Scourge of the Underworld. But, assuming the call's legitimate, which Scourge is it? John has encountered 3 so far. One seemed to be a henchman of the Red Skulls. Another shot the government agent who faked John's assassination. And a third attacked the guy who gave John his superhuman strength, the power broker. Avengers files list at least one other Scourge than that, one encountered by the original Captain America. Eventually, John is going to have to get to the bottom of this copycat mess. The U.S. agent makes it to the bar on Melrose Avenue and has to force his way through security. Vagrants, fast women, bad music. What a dive, John thinks to himself. Don't people have anything better to do than kill brain cells in a place like this? Now, where's the caller? Maybe I should have asked for a better description. What would a nice girl be doing in a place like this? Probable answer, she's not a nice girl. A woman with black hair passes John. Speaking of which, Sheboygan makes good sausages. The woman with the black hair tells John she has no idea what he's talking about. Her name isn't Sheboygan, it's Shoshana. John then sees a woman with blonde hair in the corner of the bar. Thankfully, she recognizes the secret message. Her name is Lisa Winters. She tells John that the Scourge is after her, but he is making a mistake. She has a twin sister who operates by the name of Mysteria in Vegas, and the Scourge thinks Lisa is her. He tracked her down and shot out the tires of Lisa's car a few blocks away, so she ran to the bar. The Scourge is infamous. It is well known he won't attack if it jeopardizes the lives of innocents. The U.S. agent has a feeling that there is something Lisa isn't telling him, but he can tell she is definitely scared out of her wits. His main priority is getting her out of the bar and into somewhere safe. John runs to a sky cycle to make sure the coast is clear before returning to the bar and running Lisa, now wearing his trench coat as a disguise, back outside. But as the sky cycle lifts into the air, a number of shots are fired from a sniper in the distance, hitting Lisa in the center of the back. John turns around and smirks as the party doll Hawkeye gave him as some kind of joke pops and deflates. A number of other shots are fired, and John is able to pinpoint the origin of the attack. However, the bullets don't stop. A number of them are able to pierce the hood of the cycle, causing it to malfunction and crash into the ground. Luckily, U.S. Agent's vibranium shield braces his fall, and he is able to roll to his feet. Immediately, he scans the area and hears the sound of a car engine turning on. A lone blue van in an empty parking lot near an underpass turns on its headlights and attempts to race off. U.S. Agent breaks off into a sprint. With his super soldier speed, he can easily catch up in a matter of moments. John jumps on the back of the van as it begins to pick up speed. The Scourge violently swerves in order to throw U.S. Agent off, but John is strong enough to sink his fingertips into the metal of the roof. The Scourge shoots a number of bullets from his pistol upward in hopes of hitting John, but when that doesn't work either, the shooter decides to ditch the van altogether. He opens the passenger door and slips out the van unseen, leaving the moving vehicle careening out of control into the side of a nearby mountain. The van crashes and bursts into flames. U.S. Patriot watches as the fire flicks into the air. He won't be able to check the wreckage for the shooter's body until it dies down, so he tries to examine the side of the mountain to see if the Scourge got away. But the plumes of smoke cloud the area. In the event the Scourge is alive, whoever he is, John decides he should get back to Lisa and whisk her to safety. John pulls out his Avengers ID to make a call to Sandros for pickup. 10 minutes later, a Quinjet piloted by Wonder Man arrives. Naturally, Simon assumes that Lisa is John's date. He makes a cheap joke at John's expense. "Stow it, Williams. Take us back to the compound. Fast." He turns his attention to Lisa. "Okay, lady. You're safe now." "Am I?" Lisa asks. "If you didn't see his dead body, he'll be back for me. And even if you did kill him, there'll be others along to take his place. And they won't stop till..." "Now, hold on, lady. How do you know so darn... Unless... John grabs Lisa by the shoulders. You're not mysterious sister. You're one of the Scourges yourself, aren't you? Am I right? Answer me! Am I right?
Yes! But I never killed anyone. I swear. I chickened out on my first assignment. That's why they're after me.
It's dark in South Central Los Angeles. If you close your eyes, you can hear a small child crying, the pulsing bass line of the music of the streets, sirens wailing in the far distance, a creaking bed, two men arguing about something, and the U.S. agent entering a building. What he finds is nothing, and a whole lot of it. That dippy wannabe assassin, she said the building was her trainer's hideout. Apparently, that was a lie. But John can't help but notice that the place does look familiar. At that second, Lisa walks through the doorway behind John with a pistol raised to the air. John immediately gets agitated, reminding the woman that she promised she would stay in the car. Apparently, that was a lie. She is John's only lead. He needs her alive. Without her, his hunt for the Scourge of the Underworld goes nowhere. I don't want you to get yourself wasted by waltzing into a combat zone. You reading me? Lisa nods. All right then. Unless you led me to the wrong warehouse, the laughing boy who taught you your skills took a powder. Help me scour the place for clues and evidence. 15 minutes later, the U.S. agent and Lisa leave the building unsuccessful. They make their way to Lisa's car, only to find some street punk stealing her hubcaps. John, however, isn't in the mood to take any shit. He chases down the punk and easily lifts him into the air before slamming him against a nearby street sign. He then returns to Lisa's car with the stolen item.
Wouldn't look good for a superhero to ride in a car missing a hubcap, would it?
Nope. Okay, Lisa, or whatever your real name is. Let's go through it all again. Tell me everything you know about Scourge. And this time, start from the beginning.
Okay. You're right. My name isn't Lisa, like I told you earlier. I just told you that because I didn't know if I could trust you. My real name is Priscilla. No kidding. I'm originally from Gary, Indiana. My little brother Phil fell in with a bad crowd and eventually ran away to Miami, where he got heavily into the drug trade. My parents disowned him, but I wasn't about to, so I hitchhiked down to Florida, hoping I could rescue him from what he'd gotten into.
How Scourge fit in?
I'll get to that. I thought you wanted to hear my story from the beginning.
So, Priscilla continues to explain her story. While hitchhiking, one of the guys who picked her up was the superhero, Jack Monroe, Nomad. She told Nomad what she was doing, and his knight in shining armor reflex must have kicked in because he said that he would help her. Nomad did his best, tracked Phil down, went undercover, talked to him, the whole 9 yards. But Phil apparently didn't want to be saved. After that, she just gave up on her brother and decided to tag along with Nomad, becoming almost like his partner. Priscilla got to meet other great superheroes, like Steve Rogers, who used to wear a costume just like John's. Other than Nomad, there was Falcon and Demolition Man too. But all good things come to an end, and Nomad got mad at Priscilla when he thought she was flirting with D-Man. After that, he just took off. After that, she went back home, only to learn that her brother died from a drug overdose. The guilt was unbearable. Here she was having the time of her life while her brother was suffering. Priscilla wanted to avenge poor Phil, but she needed some real power. D-Man told her he'd undergone strength augmentation in a clinic run by a man named Curtis Jackson, the power broker, in Los Angeles. So, she went there and managed to get herself a personal interview with the man himself. That was the first time she'd heard of Scourge. While at Mr. Jackson's mansion, Scourge attacked, believing Mr. Jackson to be a criminal. And that is where U.S.Agent comes in. Somehow, John learned of the murder attempt and took Scourge down. A day later, Priscilla had a run-in with a disgruntled employee of Mr. Jackson's, Dr. Carl Malice, his chief augmentation scientist. He wanted to use Priscilla to take over Power Broker's operations, but she managed to outsmart him and call the Avengers. U.S.Agent showed up then too, with the strength augmentation thing a bust. Priscilla just wanted to leave town as soon as possible. That's when a woman named Caprice arrived, stating she was a talent scout for a superhero training program. It turned out to be the Scourge program. Priscilla heard the terms and, desperate to get some valuable training so she could avenge Phil's death, she agreed to them. Soon, she was shown the warehouse the two just left, and she met a trainer whose name she was never told. For 6 months, 12 hours a day, Priscilla was privately tutored in various martial arts. She learned to shoot all types of firearms. She was taught surveillance and eavesdropping techniques. She learned how to escape from handcuffs, straitjackets, jail cells, and safes. And she was schooled in the art of disguise. Finally, she graduated and was given her first assignment to eliminate the small-time loser who once fought Daredevil, the Matador. She was all psyched to do it, but she couldn't. The guy looked harmless, babysitting for his sister's kids, and he claimed to have been clean for years. Priscilla fled, all her training and conditioning having flown out the window when put to the final test. When she got her wits together, she called the Avengers. Elsewhere, yet another Scourge is directed by the mysterious Domino to their next hunt. This one, a man in a green trench coat. He parks his blue van in front of an adult-only movie theater before walking up to the front counter and ordering a ticket for the film in progress. He makes small talk with the ticket salesman, but keeps his eyes fixed on the man with long, disheveled black hair and an overgrown beard. The woman at the counter pays this no mind. She just hands the Scourge a ticket, and he walks into the theater. Once inside the showroom, Scourge shuffles to sit directly behind the man with the beard. The bearded man angrily tells the man in green, "This theater's almost empty. What's the idea of sitting right behind me?" The man in green responds, "I paid my money. I'll sit wherever I want." The man with the beard disapprovingly raises an eyebrow, but ultimately returns his attention forward. The man in green waits a few seconds before pulling a pistol from his jacket. He meticulously screws on a silencer before pointing the gun at the man with the beard. "Peter Blowtorch Brand. Justice is served. Lowlife." Now that U.S. Agent has heard Priscilla's story, the two decide to revisit the van that she ditched after her failed assignment. John hopes there may be a clue left that may lead the two to the dispatcher named Domino. However, when they arrive, the two find that the van hasn't been touched. John instructs Priscilla to use the car phone in order to regain contact with the mysterious dispatcher. Priscilla calls him, tells him that she messed up, and now a superhero is after her. She just wants another chance. Domino surprisingly believes her. Or maybe he doesn't. What he does do is send someone to come pick her up. About half an hour later, another blue van speeds into the parking lot and screeches to a stop. A trained Scourge exits the vehicle. This one in unsuspecting street clothes and a green bomber jacket. He draws his submachine gun and walks around his van to the driver's side of the other. He honestly can't believe Priscilla was stupid enough to not realize that Domino would send another Scourge after her. He arrives at the window of the driver's side and sees the woman with blonde hair asleep behind the wheel. Deciding not to take any chances, the Scourge squeezes the trigger and empties half a clip into the woman. To his surprise, the woman is just a party doll. U.S. Agent then leaps over the van to attack the Scourge. The man in green attempts to raise his weapon to the agent, but his reflexes are too slow. U.S. Agent tackles and pins the man to the ground. He then uses his super soldier strength to strangle the man, telling Scourge the two of them are going to have a nice chat. That's when the Scourge pulls out a can of pepper spray. The agent is blinded by the attack, but refuses to let the attacker get away. The man in green tries to sprint out of reach, but U.S. Agent grabs him by the heel. Scourge then pulls out a small shank from his ankle strap and stabs the agent, freeing himself from the hero's grip. The Scourge rushes to his van and peels off. U.S. Agent, still blinded, hears the direction the van is going and tries to cut it off at the pass before it can make it to the main street. The headlights only add to the agent's disorientation. The Scourge presses down on the gas pedal and the engine howls. Instead of running, the agent charges the van and dives forward, successfully shattering the windshield with his shield. The agent grabs the wheel of the van and attempts to force the vehicle to pull over. The Scourge fights to regain control of the vehicle, but suddenly, the front tire of the van is shot out. The van drifts to the side and collides with a nearby parked car, causing the Scourge to knock himself out by hitting his head on the steering wheel. John looks up to see Priscilla pulling up in her sedan. He takes the unconscious Scourge out of the van and throws him in the back of her car. "Nice shot."
Thanks.
"Let's move it. For all we know, there's another one of these Scourges stalking him." John sits in the back seat with the Scourge, and Priscilla drives away. While in transit, John examines the Scourge and finds out he's wearing a disguise. What's this? A rubber mask you're wearing? We'll have none of that. Now, sit tight. I'm gonna strip search you so thoroughly the insides of your eyeballs are gonna smart. Before I'm through with you, I'm gonna know everything about you, up to and including the name of the little girl who sat in front of you in 3rd grade. But right now, you're gonna sit quiet in the dark. Hours later, the car pulls into the driveway of a small house next door to a church. John drags the Scourge out of the car and up to the front doorstep, knocks on the door, and is greeted by the minister he previously met. Hello, Reverend. I need your help. You wouldn't happen to have a cellar, would you? The Reverend obliges, believing the man to be an injured friend of John's. No, sir, U.S.Agent tells him stoically. He's a serial killer, and someone would kill him to keep him from talking. I need information from him. He throws the now prisoner on the floor. Okay, Scourge, end of the line. Here's the deal. You're going to sit here, in this cool, dank room, in your skivvies, until you're ready to tell us everything I want to know. Don't expect to be rescued. If you had any hidden transmitters on you, we got rid of your weapons and clothes miles from here. When you're ready to talk, give a holler. John leaves the cellar and instructs Priscilla to watch over the Scourge. Meanwhile, he is going to impersonate Scourge and try to see if he can get closer to this Domino character.
Be careful,
she warns him. If I wanted to be careful, I'd be in another line of work.
Right.
If he starts making like a chatterbox, write down the important stuff, okay?
Fine.
Before John exits the room, the Reverend stops him. When he said he thought he could help John, this is not what he had in mind. John returns to Priscilla's old van and brings a voice modifier in order to use her car phone. His story is that he, now pretending to be the Scourge, got into some trouble, got shot, and needs an immediate evac. While he waits for pickup, John uses his Pym particle capsule to shrink his shield and hide it within his belt buckle. Then, uses Priscilla's makeup blocker in order to disguise himself as the Scourge. John is gambling that since a 3rd Scourge wasn't around to pick off the one after Priscilla when he failed to kill her, that there isn't a 3rd one up and running yet. So, he better stay sharp. Later, a 2-door purple sports car rolls up behind John's van. A woman with short red hair and an even shorter skirt gets out of the car and struts over to the driver's side of the vehicle.
Hi, remember me?
John just groans as a response.
You are out of it. You didn't even think to remove that cheesy disguise. Can you move or you need help?
Leg. John exits the van and tries to lean on the woman for support.
It's only a few feet. I'm sure you can make it. You wouldn't want to get my new skirt soiled, would you?
John sits in the car, thinking to himself that the woman couldn't conceal anything in that outfit if she tried.
Sit tight, Decker. We're gonna get you medical attention in less than half an hour, traffic willing. So, you iced the recruit,
Yeah.
A pity she didn't work out. She might have made a good addition,
I guess.
Oh, I have something for you.
Without looking, the woman reaches into a compartment and pulls out a pistol. She points it directly at John and squeezes the trigger 3 times. Then, she says,
Disguise or no disguise, you're not Decker.
John Walker is in the jungle, Southeast Asia by the looks of it. He doesn't know what he's doing there. He's never even been there before. The Vietnam conflict was way over by the time he enlisted. He must be on a mission. U.S.Agent sent him. No, he's U.S.Agent. What is this? What is he supposed to do? Find somebody? Rescue somebody. That's it. He must rescue someone out this godforsaken jungle. Someone important to him. So he must keep moving. Keep low. Sooner or later, it's bound to come back to him. Then, John will do whatever he needs to do to set things right. Save the day. That's his job, isn't it? He's a hero. Suddenly, John hears something stirring in the brush. He peers forward, desperately, trying to piece together if whatever is approaching is a friend or foe. The sound of gunshots litter the air. John raises his shield to protect himself and feels almost half a dozen projectiles hitting the dense disc before ricocheting in different directions. John hates getting shot at. He hates guns. His vibranium shield may deflect the bullets, but they still sting like crazy. John then hears the sound of approaching men. He soon finds out that it's a small band of soldiers. A single sergeant commands the small division as they attempt to escape a nearby enemy bombardment. They see John and immediately raise their weapons to attack. It isn't until John tells them that he is an American that they cease their aggression. The sergeant invites John to join them, but there is something about the sergeant. His face. Sweet Lord, it's him. John realizes. It's him John is supposed to save. Mikey, John asks. What? How did you know my... John rips off his mask to show his true face. It's me, your brother, Johnny. John hugs his brother tight. He was told Mikey died, but he never believed it. Suddenly, another motor strikes. The two brothers are caught in the blast radius. Thanks to his new super soldier abilities, John survives. His brother, however, Mikey dies before he even hits the ground. John crawls forward to hold his brother in his arms, desperately trying to shake him awake. Come on, Mikey. Be alive. Please. I came all this way to change the past. Make you come home alive. Not in a closed casket. Don't let me be alone again, Mikey. I need a big brother. I need you. In reality, John is strapped up with metal chains within a steam room. In his haze, he cries out his brother's name again and again. A woman with short black hair, most likely the woman that shot John, now out of disguise, examines U.S. Agent.
He's re-experiencing something very potent,
she comments, unfazed by the agent's pleas for mercy. Another person, a man standing in the far corner of the room, keeps his attention on John, but says, "I can tell. Question him about it." The woman approaches John and asks,
"What happened? Where did you go? What did you see?"
John, still in a daze, responds, "My brother, he was in Nam. Wanted to save him, but I..."
"What's your brother's name?"
"Mike."
"Mike who?"
"Mike." The woman frowns. Then, she decides to ask a different question.
"Do you remember your name?"
"John, but they call me Jack."
"Jack who?"
"Daniels."
"Very good. You rest now, Jack."
The woman then pulls out a syringe and prepares it. Before injecting John, she turns to the other man in the room.
"While I prep him for another regression, you call Dom. He's very anxious for even the slightest tidbit to work on."
"Okay," the man says as he opens the steam bath door and exits the room. "You ought to come out of there for a breather, Clarice. You'll turn into a prune." The man then makes his way across the hall before making the call. Inside a distant laboratory sits a portly man in front of a computer in a trench coat and a bowler cap. "Yo, Domino, got some factoids for you, chubs," says the first man as he blinks across Domino's screen.
"Bloodstain, kindly forgo your customary disparaging references to my physiognomy and report."
Bloodstain gets in one last jab before informing Domino what they know so far. Their captive, the U.S. agent's name is Jack, or John, Daniels, and he has a brother named Mike who died in Vietnam. Domino is displeased at the progress Bloodstain and Clarice have yet to make.
"Just a name. No hometown. Not a parent's name. Not even what he does in his civilian guise."
Bloodstain reasons that it took more time than they thought to get the dosage of sodium pentothal right. John's metabolism is hyped up almost as much as Bloodstain's. It takes a lot to keep the man down. With no other lead to use, Domino enters the information available into his computer. The list of potential identities isn't infinitely long, but Domino will need to cross-reference them all to ascertain if any of them matches the data he's gotten so far. And if that fails to provide him with a red flag, he'll work on the augmented metabolism angle. Run the roster of power broker treatment recipients. It is only a matter of hours, at most, before Domino will be able to determine the agent's true identity. John Walker is tied up by a noose in a warehouse. No, a barn. In Custer's Grove, Georgia, his hometown. He's the prisoner of the Watchdogs, a group of radical family value types who give censorship a bad name. John busted a bunch of them a while back, but they're hot on revenge. The cuffs binding his hands are a joke. The noose around his neck is not that big a deal. Still, he has to stay cool, because they're holding his parents. "Ma, Pa, I'm sorry. Your having me for a son got you into this mess." Suddenly, John gets a sickening image in his head, vivid as a premonition of his mother and father getting shot because he loses his cool and acts tough too soon. He can't let it happen again. One of the watchdogs kicks John off of the platform he's standing on, and his body begins to hang there, seemingly lifeless, dangling for his parents to see. His mother screams out his name. She curses the watchdogs for the animals they really are. John's father approaches him before stopping mid-stride as he clutches his chest. First Mikey, now John. Everyone in attendance fully believes that their son is dead. Luckily, John's neck muscles are strong enough to keep him held up and alive until the watchdogs leave the barn. Once they are out of sight, John rips apart the handcuffs that bind him. John lands on his feet and reaches for his father. His mother now grows angry and pushes John back, blaming him for his father's weakened heart. She tells him his father didn't deserve a scare like that. John desperately tries to shake his father awake. "I was going to make sure you live this time. Live, Pa. Live, blast it." John's mother keeps trying to stop him before he can do any more harm to his father. But, out of nowhere, a gunshot goes off. Before John can realize what's happening, John's mother collapses. Blood begins to spread across the back of her dress. John looks up and sees one last watchdog with a shotgun, saying, "Dang, missed! I was aiming for you." John sobs out, "Not again, not again, not again, not again." Clarice folds her arms and smirks. "Your father and mother died because of your actions, didn't they? Speak up." "Yes." "What were their names?" "Caleb, Emily." Clarice turns to Bloodstain. "There. Now we have his parents' names to report to Domino." "Caleb and Emily." "That's what he said. Why? Any significance to you?" No. All these pharmaceutical psychodramas are getting to be a bore. Why don't we cut to the chase? Get him to tell us where he stashed the two Scourges." "For one thing, I don't think he's ready to tell us that. For another, Dom will want a complete profile on him while we have him." Now, John is fighting at that Texas oil site, and he's going at it with Hector and Jerome, his two ex-army buddies, now decked out in skin tights like John, and calling themselves left and right winger. They were the ones that blew John's true identity on television. It's with that information the watchdogs were able to nab his mother and father. Ex-buddies or not, they've got to pay for what they did. Finally, John knocks the sense out of them, and he's thought of a good way to make them suffer. Let them share the misery he's been in the months since his mother and father died in his arms. John ties up his two old friends and hangs them upside down. He then prepares to use the villain's own torch in order to watch them burn. His friends beg. They are by a gas line leading to an overturned truck. It could explode, they say. could. And did. Didn't it? John can see the drum exploding, hoisting Jerome and Hector into the air in a plume of fire. Now, he sees them in intensive care. Burns over 90% of their bodies. They didn't die in the explosion, but they did learn their lesson. The pain they feel is so excruciating. Is this what John wants? Does this make him feel better? Will this bring his mother and father back? No. John slaps away the torch, laughing, telling his two friends that it was just a joke, a scare. But then, John notices that the torch touches the line of oil, and it takes no time for it to catch a flame. It takes even less time for John to hear the truck explode. Again, John cries out in pain. It's not fair. He tried. They weren't supposed to die. Clarice, now growing impatient, tells Bloodstain, This guy has the most violent reactions to memory drugs I've ever seen. He'd be an excellent candidate for the program, don't you think? He could be one of the best. She then turns her attention back to John. Who died, Agent? Who died? Hector and Jerry, my friends. Bloodstain once again leaves the steam bath and makes a call to Domino for an update. Surprisingly, Domino has already narrowed down the identity of the U.S. agent, which will be good. With a little more prodding, they can turn John into the greatest Scourge ever. Their boss will be pleased. Immediately, Bloodstain exits the room and returns to the steam bath just in time to see Clarice preparing another injection for John. He sprints across the room and pushes Clarice to the ground, telling her no more drugs. Clarice starts to pick herself up. Have you lost your mind? What are you doing? Stopping this torture. Why? Because. That's why. You're nuts. I'm going to tell Domino. Bloodstain tells Clarice to be his guest while he unlocks the chains binding John. Bloodstain helps John to his feet and out of the door. What are you doing? John asks the villain wearily. Freeing you. I just learned who you are. John Walker. Not John Walker. Jack Daniels. That was just an alias the feds gave you. Who are you? John asks. Why are you doing this? The villain pulls off his mask. The code name's Bloodstain. As for my real name, it's Mike. Mike Walker. Your brother. I didn't really die in Nam. I was wounded. Someone else's body was sent home in my place. I was selected to go into a special CIA covert operative program. After the war ended, I became a special agent. Now, I'm one of the heads of the CIA's covert Project Scourge. Mike tells John to think about it for a second. For decades now, America's #1 domestic threat has been the proliferation of super criminals. Yes, there have been superheroes, but the criminals outnumber them 20-1. That's where Operation Scourge comes in, offering quick, efficient, covert eliminations of the nation's most powerful undesirables. Mike is the guy who trains these new Scourges. The operation doesn't officially exist. Other governmental agencies aren't supposed to know about them. Neither should superheroes. And while they are never the targets of the Scourge's interrogations, the Scourges do need to know about every superhuman individual operating in the United States. But as soon as Mike learned who John was, he had to stop the interrogation, get rid of Caprice, and talk to John man to man. "You've changed a lot, little brother. I didn't recognize you. You're not the 14-year-old kid I left back in Custer's Grove. And now that we're together, I don't ever want to lose track of you again. Funny, we both ended in the same line of work, huh? I've got a proposition for you, Johnny. I'd like you to join the Scourge program. Become my co-director." "Me? Scourge?" John still can't comprehend everything that is happening. Is this really his brother? Does Mike know about their parents? "I know your record, Johnny. You've killed men in the line of duty before. 11 men so far. Am I right?" 13. 2 others took their lives, rather than live with the injuries I left them with. The government sanctions the Scourge's elimination of undesirables, Johnny. I know you. You're not a bleeding heart liberal like Captain America. You don't believe the sort of men you battle can ever be rehabilitated. Do you? They're lifers, every one of them. Wait, what about the girl your Scourge tried to kill? Asks John, speaking about Priscilla. She's no hardened criminal, just a mixed up kid. Johnny, you remember the government faked your death to give you a new identity. That's all we're going to do with her. Mike walks John out of the building and hands him a card. You're free, Johnny. Put your mask on. Go home. Think over my offer. Here's how to get in touch with me when you make up your mind. You need a ride somewhere? No, whatever. John walks the city streets alone. It has been over 12 hours, so he gives a call to check in with Priscilla and the Reverend. He tells them he will be back in the house in about 2 hours, max. He just needs some time to think about everything Mike said. If it really even was Mike. At that moment, Caprice pulls up in a sports car and offers John a ride. Elsewhere, Mike makes another call. Domino, Bloodstain. I'm 90% certain U.S.Agent bought the Big Brother story. Yeah, I made him the offer to join the club. Right. So even if he doesn't buy my offer, he's going to lead us to where he's got the 2 other Scourges stowed. Yeah, don't worry. I'm going to handle this one personally. Johnny Boy is all mine. Bloodstain sits and waits. He brought a Scourge with him for backup, but it most likely won't be necessary. He peers into the scope of the rifle he has readied on the back of U.S.Agent. Heh.
All it would take is one squeeze of the trigger, and Brother Dearest would spend the remainder of his life wondering how he was going to get by without his head. Jack Daniels believed the story I told him about the Scourge of the Underworld program and decides to join up. Johnny Boy would make a very good Scourge, don't you think? I'll bet you my next bonus that this is where he's got our failed Scourge stashed. Now shut up. I want to hear what he has to say, courtesy of that bug I planted on him. John enters Reverend Nordstrom's home, and immediately the churchman speaks his piece. They have had a man captive for days. He hasn't even been fed. At this point, the Reverend feels like he's engaged in torture, not confinement. John hears what the Reverend is saying and asks him to procure a sandwich for their captive Scourge agent. However, the Reverend can tell that there is something heavy on John's mind. He offers his ear, but John refuses. All this trouble with his so-called brother. He doesn't even know where to start. John carries the food they prepared down to the prisoner and runs into Priscilla. She tells him that she only left her post twice in order to go to the bathroom. She honestly hasn't heard a peep from their captive since a little after John left. John opens up the basement door, and at first, the prisoner is nowhere to be found. John takes a single step into the room to examine further, but then the prisoner jumps out from behind the open door, freed from the ropes that bind him. The prisoner now holds the rope in his own hands, attempting to use it to strangle the life out of U.S.Agent, causing him to drop the food. However, John is able to counter the attack and regain control of the situation. U.S.Agent ties the prisoner up again before holding the man up so he can look into the man's eyes when he says this. Get this straight. You're going to talk to me, and if I like what you have to say, I may dust off your bologna sandwich and let you have it. Am I clear? U.S.Agent interrogates the prisoner. His goal, to find out the truth about everything. The government sanctions, the training program, Bloodstain's true identity. Everything. Unfortunately, the man doesn't know anything. The problem is, U.S.Agent can't tell if it's because this Scourge wasn't told this information, or if it's just everything he was told was an outright lie. With his interrogation seemingly going nowhere, U.S.Agent decides to finally take his prisoner to the proper authorities. Priscilla and U.S.Agent blindfold the man and take him back out to Priscilla's car. They throw the prisoner in the back seat of the car, and U.S.Agent sits back there with him, leaving Priscilla to drive. But when she turns the key to start the ignition, the engine won't turn over. It won't start. It was working fine just 5 minutes ago. Don't blame me. She tries a couple of times to no avail. It is at this moment Priscilla looks up out of the window to make sure the coast is clear, and she is greeted by a man in white and a barrel of a gun. A Scourge, dressed in all white, peers into the car window. Turn your prisoner over to me, and no one will be hurt. The two heroes stare in disbelief. Open the door, have him get out, or else I open fire on the whole car." The prisoner pleads for U.S. Agent to let him stay in the car. He knows if the agent hands him over, he's a dead man. But U.S. Agent doesn't have any choice. He kicks the man out of the car and closes it behind him. "Good choice," commends the Scourge. The Scourge walks the prisoner over to the grass in the Reverend's front yard and has him drop to his knees. The Scourge points his gun at the back of the prisoner's head and the prisoner begs for his life. Suddenly, the sound of ripping metal scratches the air. The Scourge looks back to the car and sees the agent using his shield to tear through the roof of the vehicle, and then launches his shield at the Scourge, successfully knocking him off his feet and saves the prisoner. U.S. Agent then leaps out of the car and charges the killer. Was this all just a setup? Did they plant a bug on him without him knowing? Is this Scourge really his brother? U.S. Agent's mind is clouded. "I need answers, Scourge. Or is it Bloodstain?" U.S. Agent disarms the Scourge and the two of them begin to fight hand to hand. "Well, speak! Answer me! Or do you want me to have to beat it out of you?" Priscilla, seeing the Scourge is distracted, runs to grab the prisoner and tries to take him back inside the house. To Priscilla's surprise, a second Scourge arrives. This Scourge points their pistol at Priscilla and yells out to get the agent's attention. "Stop where you are, or the girl gets greased," she orders. The agent looks back at the Scourge, asking, "What are you threatening her for, Scourge? I thought you had a policy that no innocents were to be harmed." The Scourge looks back and counters, "Priscilla's no innocent." So, Priscilla fights back. She lands a high kick and follows it by kneeing the killer in the abdomen. U.S. Agent watches and is almost impressed. The Scourge he is fighting takes advantage of John dropping his guard and throws tear gas to blind the agent. The Scourge U.S. Agent is fighting then sprints over to the prisoner Scourge and executes him, shooting the man point blank in the back of the skull. The Scourge then sets his sights on Priscilla, who is more than handling her own opponent at the moment. The Scourge shoots, but his aim is off and he hits the other Scourge instead. Priscilla lifts the Scourge over her shoulder to protect her from any more bullets and laughs at her luck before searching the now downed opponent for any hidden weapons. She finds a pistol strapped to the Scourge's ankle and lets it rip. One of the bullets actually hits the last Scourge in the stomach. He stumbles, trying his hardest not to collapse to the ground. Instead, he runs off into the tree line and disappears in the distance. John, still blinded from the tear gas, calls out, "What's happening? Who's shooting? Blasted! Priscilla!"
"I'm okay. Our prisoner was shot in the head. One of the Scourges took one in the shoulder. The other got it in the abdomen, but managed to run off. Look, this one's still breathing."
Priscilla removes the Scourge's mask.
"It's Caprice."
Priscilla calls an ambulance for Caprice, and John asks the Reverend to bring out a blanket to cover the dead Scourge's body. Later, as the group waits for the ambulance to arrive, John decides to play a hunch. He calls the number on the back of the card Mikey gave him and waits for his supposed brother to pick up the call. When he finally does, Mikey sounds out of breath. Johnny, what's up? I made up my mind. I want to join you. You're sure? Yeah. So what do you want me to do? Come back to that warehouse where we met? Yeah. Meet you in 3 hours. I've got something to take care of first. John hangs up the call and stares at the phone. Who'd you call? Priscilla asks. I'm not sure. John walks over to Caprice. She's awake at the moment, but she isn't in a good condition. It doesn't matter. John interrogates her anyway, attempting to find out who is in charge of the Scourge program. Once again, that question leads nowhere. However, Caprice does know how to find Domino. Finally, with a stable lead, John makes his leave, leaving the Reverend and Priscilla to wait for the ambulance. 2 hours later, in a battle van parked on the outskirts of Los Angeles, Domino sits and waits. The situation certainly isn't good. Operations have come to a complete standstill. Caprice is wounded, maybe dead. No active scourges in the field. Bloodstain is on some wild goose chase. Their benefactor is not going to be pleased. Then, out of nowhere, U.S.Agent kicks down the door. No, you can't be here, gasps Domino. Can't? But I am. I understand you're the data freak that gives all the Scourges the skinny on their victims. Is this some of your data? CD-ROMs. How very up to date. What do you... I'm here to put you on a diet, Domino. I understand CD-ROMs have lots of fiber. I just thought you might like to know that as I feed you every single disk in this whole stale-smelling data bank on wheels. No, don't! This is my data! This is my life! They mean more to you than, say, the identity of your employer? The next morning, at dawn, Domino's van rolls up to the gated estate. The front security checks them in, albeit with a little speculation at first. The two leave the van and then make their way down the paved driveway, through the garden, up to the front door of the admittedly large mansion. To U.S.Agent's surprise, he and Domino are greeted by a nearly 80-year-old man in a wheelchair, being escorted by his heavy-set nurse. Dominic, he says, why have you brought this man here? Is this project in jeopardy? John steps forward. The fat man claims you financed a succession of serial killers. Sir, is that the project you're talking about? The old man squints. So, you are the U.S. agent. Good name. Wish I'd thought of it. Called myself the Angel back in the 40s. Want to hear about it? I was born into money and boredom. I took up crime fighting because it seemed like an interesting thing to do. Just for thrills. Back in my day, you didn't need fancy powers to be a hero. Just a fancy tailor. I did some good. Maybe not as much as Captain America or the Human Torch, but good nonetheless. I felt pretty darn good about it too. Then, one day, an innocent bystander took a bullet meant for me and died. Oh, I caught the guy, beat him badly, But what was the use? Because I hadn't taken my job seriously enough. An innocent life had been snuffed in its prime. I couldn't put on the suit anymore. I couldn't become the avenging angel again. I retreated into my wealth and my guilt. I wished to atone for my failings, for my lackadaisical way I approached crime fighting. And for years, I obsessed over how I could do so. Finally, I met Dominic, a man who shared my ideas about law and order, and we mapped out a strategy to eradicate the criminal element as efficiently and thoroughly as possible. And thus, the Scourge program was born, the nation's most concerted effort to eliminate the filth that undermines America's moral character. I have rid America of scores of unrepentant menaces. I've improved the quality of life in this nation. I have atoned for my failings of half a century ago. I have truly become the avenging angel. U.S. Agent raises an eyebrow at the old man before turning on his heel, warning everyone that he will be back with the authorities. Before John can take his second step, the heavy-set nurse pulls out a submachine gun from her leg strap and rips off their mask, revealing they are none other than Bloodstain. "Hold it right there, you self-righteous punk," Bloodstain says as he shoots U.S. Agent in the shoulder. "When you stood me up for a little meeting, I figured you might have weaseled your way towards the truth." "Bloodstain? That's right, Johnny, your big bad brother." "Cut the crud. You're not my brother. That was a crock, just like the government sanction was." "What's it matter, Johnny? You had your chance to be one of society's cleansers, and you blew it. So now, as ever, justice must be served." Bloodstain stands over U.S. Agent and prepares to pull the trigger. U.S. Agent strikes Bloodstain in the stomach with his shield. Bloodstain reels back in pain as he begins to bleed from his bullet wound. U.S. Agent then jumps in for the attack. He uses his shield to block another round of incoming bullets and tackles Bloodstain to the ground. Bloodstain counters by kicking the agent off him and follows up with a double-fisted hammer attack. U.S. Agent takes the hit but counters with his own uppercut to the gut. The agent is exhausted, and the blood loss has caused him to become lightheaded. U.S. Agent attempts to stumble away into the statue-filled garden, but Bloodstain crawls to his weapon and once again opens fire. John sprints behind the garden statues with his shield up for protection. The bullets chip away at the base of one of the statues across the garden, causing it to become unstable and topple over, creating a domino effect. Domino, the data freak, tries to push the old man in his wheelchair to safety, but he is too slow and caught under one of the falling statues. U.S. Agent, on the other hand, is spared when two of the statues collide into each other. Both of them now stop before they can fall on John. After the barrage of bullets comes to a halt, U.S. Agent realizes Bloodstain is reloading his weapon. He leaps in to attack. Bloodstain sees this and quickens his pace. In a desperate attempt to stop the agent from closing in, Bloodstain jumps out of his cover and fires his weapon. U.S. Agent raises his shield, and each one of the bullets bounce off and return in Bloodstain's direction. The spray of bullets tear apart Bloodstain's clothes and skin. A few of them lodge into his head and upper body, leaving him bleeding out and lifeless on the ground. John leaves the estate with the old man still there, alive. Without anyone to aid him, the old man can't make it back to his chair. He has no choice but to sit there and wait for the authorities to arrive. A few hours later, John is in the hospital getting his wounds attended to. He doesn't know why he was spared today, why those statues didn't fall on him. Maybe there is a reason. Maybe what John has to do now is find out what that reason is. He understands what motivated that old man, the avenging angel. John's done things he feels he needs to make amends for. He just hopes, unlike him, John can see the path to true salvation.